The owl-themed Byakuya gang continues to invade Konoha Village and infest it with its Robin Hood-esque ideals of stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. But as is the case for just about every arc in the Naruto series, things are not as they appear, and the Byakuya gang appears to have darker motives for the hidden village in the leaves. Boruto Naruto Next Generations returns with another okay episode of the series. While this is probably my least favorite arc from the entire Boruto anime adaptation, I still have to admit everything that is here is fairly intriguing, if only for the fact that we get to spend some time with the other people from Konoha Village that are not named Boruto, Sarada, and Mitsuki. Case in point, we get to spend some time with Shikadai, even Metal Lee's team, which of course also consists of Iwabe and Denki, who play a pretty important role in this episode, and we even get to see Temari coming back, and she's just as hardcore and awesome as she always was, maybe even more so in this episode right here, as now she's also acting as a very protective mother. A mother who likes to have awesome ninja battles with her son, which is honestly pretty freaking great, I have to admit. That, and of course there's this whole subplot of this one young ice-wielding ninja who finally we learn his name. It's Ryogi. He apparently is the pawn of the leader of the Byakuya gang, and this is very similar to the whole Zabuza Haku situation where you have this big awesome guy who's in charge. He manipulates the younger ninja. It just happens to be an extreme coincidence that, again, just like the Haku storyline, this Ryogi character has the ability to wield ice jutsu, which within the confines of the Naruto world is actually kind of a pretty rare thing. But he's not really doing a great job of actually hiding it, because there is a scene in this episode where Ryogi is finally reunited with Shikadai after skipping out on their last shogi game, and he actually does reveal his name not only to Shikadai, but to also Boruto, and when he decides to leave to meet up with his gang, he just disappears in a flash. It's a ninja vanish, if you will. The thing is, though, he leaves behind an icy mist, which I just think it's a little too ridiculous that this guy is trying to hide his abilities, and he just displayed using an ice ninja ability, which, as we've already established, is pretty rare in the Naruto world. Maybe Ryogi subtly wants to be caught by them and wants to be outed for being a part of this group, as he seems to be mostly on the side of his very own gang, but he definitely sees where other people are coming from. He has a sympathizer in the form of Shikadai, who, just like Ryogi and a lot of the other people in Hidden Leaf Village, believe that what the Byakuya gang is doing is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not exactly a black and white, these are evil guys. I mean, they're stealing a lot of things, but they are distributing it to people who actually need it. Although, ultimately, at the end of this episode, we do learn that they do have some sort of other motive that they're not telling Ryogi, and it all has to do with probably some sort of massive heist of some kind, and they're doing this in order to gain sympathy from the people in the country as well as from Konoha Village, and it seems to be working just fine. The problem is, Konoha Village is now under lock and key. Basically, everybody Chunin and up are on guard, and they're going to be going after the Byakuya gang. That's why I found it so surprising that they were able to infiltrate the village so easily in this episode right here. I mean, every time I think about a ninja going into Konoha Village, I always think about the scene during the Pain arc where they finally decided to invade. They're from the friggin' Akatsuki. These guys are like the higher-up villains in the series, and even when they infiltrated, Konoha Village realized that something was not quite right was going on here. So for these owl guys to just sort of sneak in casually and do all this stuff, you kind of have to suspend your disbelief for a little bit, but still it does lead to some pretty awesome scenes, I have to admit. Like, we do get this great opening scene where we get to see Metal Lee and his team actually trying to stop them from robbing this place, and we got to see them all utilizing unique abilities, Denki actually acting like a ninja, Iwabe trapping them in this massive dome of earth, which is awesome, showing that he's becoming a lot more proficient in using the earth style. I can't wait to see more of what this guy's going to be capable of in the future. I'm very excited for the future of Iwabe. But then, of course, we have Metal Lee, who finally starts to live up to the bravery of his father by jumping into the battle and defending his friends who are about to get killed by a massive chunk of ice, and he just bats it away with his arm, but breaks it in the process. It's kind of a shame, but honestly, I do like the contrast between Metal Lee and his father Rock, because this could have just been another Rock Lee, just another mini version of that. And you know what? We've already seen that before. It's called the first part of the Naruto series. So to see this character like this, who's incredibly timid and has a lot to learn, another character just like Iwabe and Denki, I want to see them grow. This is the team that has a lot of potential for growth, not only in their abilities, but even as far as characterization goes. This was a big moment for Metal Lee. He displayed some bravery, where a lot of the times in the other series, he would just start, melting. His legs would start shaking. He wouldn't do anything. He couldn't keep his composure. Here, he acted like a ninja. Unfortunately, he learned the hard way that if you're going to be a hero, you better be prepared to take a few licks in the process, and he took one hell of a lick right there. There's also a great scene at the very end of the episode where the Byakuya gang finally come into town and they're getting ready to perform this big heist, which is going to lead to their ultimate goal. And as they're escaping, they're accosted by Sumire and Wasabi and her group, and we get to see them in their actual outfits, which is really cool. They have like their very own distinctive ninja cool look, and I love it. I really do love it. But then we get Temari, who comes in and just does what she does best, which is bringing out her ridiculously oversized fan and just destroying everything in her wake. And she actually does manage to separate them and get them to start running away, and she almost comes close to catching them, even with the help of her son Shikadai, who she said should use the shadow paralysis jutsu, but he can't use it just like his father can, showing again that these characters are very young and unexperienced when it comes to these type of situations, where in their generation, this was just an everyday occurrence for them. They're doing a great job of showing how the next generation has a lot of potential, but they still know nothing of the real terror of the ninja world. And we're going to see a lot more of that in the future of the series. It's heavily hinted at in the very first episode of Boruto, and I love getting to see that happen. It's a great concept, too, because it's, usually at these stories, you always just assume the good guys win, everyone lives happily ever after. That's never the case. You never really get to fully see what happens after unless the author decides to pick it up again. It's like in Star Wars. It's like at the end of Return of the Jedi, the Emperor is dead, the Empire's been dismantled and disheveled, the heroes have won, we're shooting fireworks in the sky, and that's the end of all of it. Until, like 30 years later when they're like, you know what? Here's episode 7. Things are not working out the way that you thought. The heroes are being killed. The story's continuing. And history is repeating itself in a very violent fashion. In many ways, that's what's going on here. It's the parallels between Boruto and Star Wars, I'm really starting to see them now big time. Especially with Boruto, or Naruto, basically being Luke Skywalker. Like, he's starting his brand new Jedi/Ninja Order, and eventually things are going to go wrong. And that's what I'm loving seeing in this series. The wait for it is palpable. It's amazing. Now, this is not a perfect episode, and that brings us to the rundown of this week's episode of Boruto. This was not a very great episode for me, personally. As far as entertainment value goes, I found myself getting kind of bored by it. In many ways, it was kind of a retread of last week's episode, while also establishing that, yes, the Byakuya gang is a necessary evil according to Shikadai, but clearly they have evil aspirations for the future. And I hope they're going to be something a little more elaborate outside of just a big heist and these guys just want to steal a lot of money. I want to see these guys in action a little bit too, as they are making sure to keep them mysterious while they're wearing those owl-themed outfits. I'm hoping these are ninja who have some really cool abilities, as Ryogi is able to use ice, and I'm hoping that they'll have some other unique abilities as well. As for the character of Ryogi, he's okay. He's kind of a blank slate. He's basically the male version of Haku. I mean, they're almost identical in many ways. I mean, the parallels are there. I mean, like, the moments with Ryogi playing Shogu with Shikamaru is like when Naruto met Haku in the woods and thought that it was a beautiful girl. It's all leading up to that moment where they realize, you're a part of the bad guys? Woo! Like, it's gonna be that moment. And of course, Temari is involved with all of this as well. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Of course, the planets have aligned on this moment. Shikadai is involved with arguably the main, or one of the main antagonists of this current arc right here, so his mom has to be involved. I'm waiting for Shikamaru to show up. I think that's going to be really awesome. It'll be really cool to see the family all working together in tandem with Shikamaru and Shikadai combining their shadow paralysis jutsu with Temari, who comes in and just destroys everybody with her wind scythe. Yeah, that's basically it. Otherwise, this was a decent episode, though, in terms of getting more variety than last week's episode. Getting to spend more time with the other teams is something that I really wanted, and I was kind of hoping we could see more of Metal Lee with his team in this episode. Mostly, they're just there at the beginning. Then, of course, we have the middle episode is just, building up the relationship between Ryogi and with Shikadai, and just reinforcing the fact that some people are okay with this Byakuya gang thing, and they think that what they're doing is a necessary evil, something that could be good for society. And then there's the other people who are just like, nope, it's bad. They're just evil, black and white, throw them in jail. That's just the way it goes. And getting to see all the characters react to it in a different way is honestly great because it's realistic. Not everybody's going to have this hive mind mentality about it. As weird as that might actually be believable in real life, but like, seriously, I like the way that Boruto is still kind of conflicted by all of this. You don't get to see much of him in this episode, but you can tell that his encounter with Ryogi and the Byakuya gang has completely, like, sort of warped his mind a little bit. So getting to see him think that way, and Shikadai sort of going with Ryogi, and the other people thinking that they're just real bad, it's surprisingly complex for the show. But it's still not a perfect episode. I have to admit, this one was kind of boring here. Maybe I just wanted more. Maybe it just felt too much like a retread and there wasn't enough new stuff going on in this episode. That being said, this is still like 100 times better than just about any Naruto filler that was ever released in the past. And it's something that's going to have actual repercussions on the future of the series. And it's building upon the characters, which the Boruto manga series is not doing. Unless, of course, they are the main characters. I'm loving getting to see the side characters in action in this one, and I really hope we'll get to see more. From a production side of things, okay looking episode. Not the best looking episode of Boruto by a long shot, but not terrible looking either. A few off-model parts, otherwise it was okay. The design of the character Ryogi is funny. He always looks like he is just so strung out on something. I don't know. Again, he comes across very much like Haku. Very timid, soft-spoken, very obedient to his leader. And I can't wait to see if he's going to go down the same path. I have a feeling he probably won't, and maybe if Ryogi survives, he could end up being a recurring character in the series. Now we have another ice wielder, and he could dress like an owl. It would be freaking awesome. He's the Ice Owl Ninja. I think that would be pretty cool. I do like the designs of the Byakuya gang's outfits. So, there it is. That's my thoughts on the episode. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. It was not a bad episode. It was just kind of average. But still a pretty great addition to a surprisingly good arc of Boruto. And it's just more stuff before we get primed up, before we get to the big movie arc, which is something I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with the series. And they're doing a great job, too, of sort of building up to that by slowly introducing the character of Katasuke, the crazy mad scientist. While you either love him or hate him, I don't know how I feel about the character, to be honest. I'm kind of indifferent towards him. There are moments where I'm like, God, I hate everything about Katasuke. And then there are moments where I'm like, ha! That's actually pretty funny. So it's kind of hard to really pinpoint how I feel about him, as even right now in the current manga version of Boruto, he's surprisingly important, and we're going to see a lot more of him. So get used to more of Professor Katasuke. So this episode's a 3 out of 5. You got my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear yours. Tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of the Boruto anime series. Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.